Peace, y'all. How are you today? Saturday. Just gonna go for a walk in the woods around the edge of my lake, or the lake. It's actually a river. Burns Lake is actually a river. It's all lies. Everything's a fucking lie. Anyways, let's go for a walk, and we'll let Asha Logos do the talking here. We're going to listen to In Pursuit of Clarity, a case for separation. And if you don't like it, leave, because you can do that. All right, let's go.
Hello, and welcome to In Pursuit of Clarity, episode number 45, entitled Making the Case for Separation. I'm currently in the process of finishing a video dealing with the extremely important subject of eliminating our total dependence on a system that seems practically dedicated to destroying us. It speaks to the use of dynamics like COVID or climate change or a centralized digital currency as means and methods to create a vast array of institutions and organizations, a sprawling bureaucracy, setting the stage to force mass compliance through a combination of the most powerful incentives and threats. There was such a massive material that I couldn't possibly include in the video, so I thought I'd voice some of it here, and at the same time, make a standalone argument as to why I feel separation is absolutely necessary at this point, why I believe it's essentially the only path forward, why, if done properly, it managed to kill several birds with one stone and begin to help solve several of our most pressing and debilitating problems, and why I feel the handful of arguments I've been able to find against this course of action fall so incredibly flat and so miss the mark. So let's not waste any time and jump right into it. The whole COVID dynamic so clearly proved what so many of us had been assuming for some time now, namely that there's an exceedingly powerful faction, culture, or tribe of individuals who've increasingly managed to monopolize a vast number of positions of power and influence and efficiently engage in what's been called institutional capture. It seems they've recognized full well that the majority of the public isn't on board with regard to a great deal of their stated goals and the unstated aims they've subtly insinuated and hinted at. So their only solution, because they can't completely and comprehensively control or mentally condition the vast majority, they merely need to control the bottlenecks instead. In other words, you don't need to control the entire DOJ if you can maneuver your people into the topmost position or two. The same goes for the military, for various intelligence organizations, for the political arena. This is the only path by which a tiny minority can exercise dominance over a much larger number of people, while giving it a veneer of legitimacy and preventing open revolt. These individuals have visions of a future in which, quote, experts and a small administrative class utterly dominate all nations in an increasingly borderless and globalist framework, somewhat similar to China's power structure, which is why several leaders of Western nations, Trudeau possibly the least subtle among them, have so openly praised the Chinese model. And they've made such strides toward this that they can practically taste the unlimited power and feel that it's almost within their grasp. The vast majority of you listening know that this is a negative development, and that this future would be one of the worst of all possible futures. But before we move on to the rest of the argument, I think it's important to briefly speak to just how and why this path is such a net negative. Nearly all of the most pure and profound truths are things that are true on many levels. In other words, in a fractal sense, things that are true on both the micro scale and the macro scale. If a principle or idea proves true across many spheres, and from the most zoomed in as well as the most zoomed out perspective, this acts as the best of all proof that it is fundamentally true. and one of those all-important truths that we can begin to orient ourselves and our beliefs around with confidence. Many of these most fundamental truths are being aggressively attacked in our age. And this is, of course, by design, a very purposeful and conscious process. To give an example, consider that in virtually all of nature, especially with regard to mammals, there exists a male and a female, and the joining together of the two is capable of creating new life, to perpetuate all life on this planet, and to quote, "be fruitful and multiply." And across many species, mankind foremost among them, this new life is best shaped by having an ever-present and highly positive representation of both this masculine energy and archetype, as well as the feminine. Both provide something absolutely vital, and studies and statistics couldn't prove any more clearly that when a child lacks either of these examples growing up, they tend to suffer for it in the widest variety of ways. This family unit is essentially a microcosm of how a healthy nation operates. The father is meant to guide this ship with a creative and proactive hand. The mother is the nurturing and cultivating force that ties everything together to unconditionally love her children and to create a healthy and stable home. Crucially, nature has wired both parents with a greater love and devotion for their own children than for the children of strangers. Meaning, an optimally efficient household is one in which the parents have direct blood and genetic ties with their children, because this greatly increases the amount of time and energy and love they're willing and able to grant to these offspring, to ensure they're shaped and oriented in the most healthy and robust manner possible. This new globalist ethos, with its attempted erasure of both male and female, and its celebration of multiculturalism, is like pure poison by comparison. Nearly every last aspect about these ideologies aims to obliterate this timeless natural order and these timeless truths and principles. The "it takes a village" mentality, laid out by Hillary Clinton and her coven, amongst others, is in actuality saying it takes a state, and attempts to make the argument that our children are best raised and guided by a state and state institutions and employees, whether these be public school teachers, counselors, or doctors, or the television producers, or writers, or directors, or celebrities of prevailing popular culture. And not just a state, but a state stripped of everything that gave it any positive potential. A deracinated people who've replaced their sense of self, their history, their culture, their traditions and stories and myths, with brand new and novel creations spun out of whole cloth by the purely power-seeking in economic and political spheres, and of the purely degenerate and predatory in social and cultural spheres. So when you hear any variety of the "it takes a village" conception, one of the best analogies to fully understand what they truly seek would be in looking at their aggressive celebration of drag.
Well, I guess that's it for all. I'll leave a link in the description. Have a wonderful weekend, people. God bless you all.